I thank the member for Murray. The question now is that the amendment be agreed to, and I call the member for Lindsay.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I am pleased to rise in support of the amendments moved by the Minister for Education in regard to the Tertiary Education Quality Standards Agency Bill 2014. Deputy Speaker, the amendment delivers on the Abbott's government election to commitment to reduce red tape. Red tape is a handbrake on our economy and our national productivity. We in the Coalition are getting on with the job of getting things done. The government is committed to enhancing the quality of tertiary education. The Minister for Education, just last Wednesday, recommitted himself to the sector, and I quote, "To do all that I can to make a good university system even better, and indeed to promote the development in Australia, the best higher education system in the world." A noble cause. He goes on to encourage the university sector to embrace with enthusiasm its new freedom and autonomy. This amendment not only focuses on freedom and autonomy, but also works to reduce the regulatory burden imposed on our university sector. This is not a new theme for the Liberal Party. Our party has a long history in driving higher education in Australia, dating back to our party's founding father, Sir Robert Menzies. When Menzies first became Prime Minister in 1939, there were 6 universities in Australia and only 14,236 higher education students in a population of 7 million people. By the time he retired in 1966, there were 16 universities and 91,272 higher education students. Today, the Coalition Government stands to once again strengthen the university sector by encouraging competitiveness and autonomy, and by delivering on our commitment to reduce red tape. The Abbott government's deregulatory agenda will ensure universities can devote more time and resources to do what they do best. That is, delivering the highest quality education through teaching, learning and research. Deputy Speaker, this is yet another opportunity to highlight March 26, a key date in the parliamentary calendar that the government has set aside specifically for deregulation. I hope the opposition can see the merit in removing red tape that strangles businesses, universities and families alike. Essentially, these amendments strengthen the core focus of TEQSA, which is, firstly, course accreditation and, secondly, provider registration. Each of these functions play an extremely supportive role of individual institutions and, I note, have been broadly welcomed by the sector. Further, the amendments seek to remove TEQSA's quality assessment function, which, generally speaking, allowed the agency to conduct sector-wide thematic reviews of institutions or course studies. Such reviews are time and resource intensive for TEQSA itself, but also the universities which are asked to provide input to the reviews. I also note this type of information is collated by a range of departments and businesses and is just really an additional layer of red tape. Hence, Australian universities welcome the removal of this function. The Minister for Education, upon introducing this legislation, made comment that this function and broader issues around quality in higher education and risks to quality are better supported through the constructive engagement with initiatives and programs of the institutions themselves. As I am sure all members of the House agree, universities are a vital part of our social and economic fabric. They employ over 107,000 people and in excess of $20 billion in total revenue annually. I would like to acknowledge the outstanding work and contribution of the University of Western Sydney, whose Chancery is housed within my electorate of Lindsay. The University of Western Sydney is a self-accrediting institution with robust and long-standing internal quality assurance mechanisms. Sure, I might be biased. I am an alumni after all. But I believe it is a testament to this fine institution that I am standing here today. Deputy Speaker, further to this, UWS has rigorous procedures in place for monitoring and assuring quality processes, systems and outcomes. Prior to speaking on this legislation today, I sought advice and feedback from our new Vice-Chancellor, Professor Barney Glover, and I'd like to read his letter. The University of Western Sydney supports this first step by the Minister to implement the findings of the higher education regulation and reduce the regulatory burden on university. He goes on to say, TEXA's core function should be to provide registration and course accreditation, removing the remit for quality assessment. The amendments are mainly technical in nature, leaving the Act's core objectives intact. If managed with the appropriate level of caution and direction, the proposed changes of the agency's governance structure, including provisions for ministerial oversight and authority deregulation, should bring renewed focus and efficiencies to the work of this important regulatory body. This realignment of TEXA's functions will see it fulfil a more enabling rather than imposing role on the nation's universities. These amendments will free universities up to focus their energies on delivering the highest quality teaching, learning and research needed to foster Australia's economic development and international competitiveness. This has never been more important considering the challenges facing our manufacturing industries. The quality of our higher education institutions is pivotal if they are to fulfil their community's remit as well as their core functions in teaching and research. This is particularly true for Greater Western Sydney, where the University of Western Sydney's focus on quality has been a key feature of its growth into an institution making a major economic and employment contribution to the region. If implemented, the genuine support for the sector, the TEXA Act amendments will meet their aim in reducing the regulatory burden on universities. A view is emerging that the issue of quality is less so something that can be regulated centrally. Rather, it must be a main focus of universities that wish to remain viable in an increasingly competitive international environment. This amendment will enable this to happen. Thank you, Professor Glover. He is a very good man. Deputy Speaker, in receiving this positive endorsement from the university, I too am pleased to rise and support these amendments. I note that the University of Western Sydney also made 2 submissions in 2013 to the Review of Higher Education. As you can see from the letter from Professor Glover, UWS has a very strong view of these. If these amendments are implemented with genuine support of the sector and influence to support TEXA, will continue to grow for the betterment of the industry. I seek leave to table these 3 documents.
Is leave granted?
Deputy Speaker, I'm a great fan of the University of Western Sydney, a great fan of Professor Glover and a great fan of the Vice-Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor for Research and I think International Matters, Scott Holmes. So on that basis I'm more than happy to allow the tabling.
Leave's granted.
Thank you very much, Member for Hunter. Deputy Speaker, I am proud to be part of a government that is getting on with the job of reducing regulatory burden in our economy. I support this amendment that will assist universities across Australia, including the University of Western Sydney, that will help maximise their international competitiveness. I commit the bill to the House. Thank you.